Welcome to the March episode of County Connection, where we talk about events, programs, and services offered by Summit County government. We have a great show lined up for you this month. We're going to be talking about emergency preparedness, how to have conversations with kids about alcohol and marijuana use, and how to save water in your home. Thanks for joining us. For our first segment, we're going to introduce you to our new Director of Emergency Management. We have Brian Bovaird, who joins us from the City of Baltimore. Brian, welcome to County Connection and to Summit County.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
All right, so Brian, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about your background?
Sure. Well, like you said, I'm from Baltimore, but important to note, I'm actually born in New Orleans. And I bring that up because I went to the Mardi Gras parade and was very impressed with the Breckenridge Mardi Gras parade.
Perfect.
So
we have your seal of approval.
That's right. I was very impressed. So my background in public safety is the fire department. I was a Baltimore City firefighter for about 10 years and promoted up through the ranks to lieutenant. And then I transitioned to emergency management about 6 years ago. And when I left Baltimore, I was our director of operations. So I have a little bit of experience kind of dabbling in all phases of emergency management, and I'm super excited to be here and working with this new team.
Great. So you joined Summit County as the Director of Emergency Management in early February, late January?
Late January.
Okay. And so for folks at home, tell us exactly what does an emergency manager do? Sure.
It's a great question. I get that all the time. So the emergency manager, or the position of emergency manager in Summit County, does a lot and is responsible for a lot, and it's a wide range of things. Anything from, there's a pretty sophisticated system from the federal level on down that involves plans and grant funding and management of the program. So there's that part of it. And then there's also the response side of it, where, anything that's going on. I always tell people that whenever there's a big incident, the incident itself is kind of what's happening, and that's what people are directly focusing on. But around an incident is always an emergency, and those are the things that are happening as a result of that incident that cause disruption within the community and could possibly threaten safety or the environment. And so really that's the job of the emergency managers, to kind of look at that big picture and help coordinate resources so that the incident commander can actually focus on the incident.
Okay. And so this is a relatively new field, relative to, say, some of the other positions we think about in government. Can you talk a little bit about the evolution of the field?
Absolutely. Yeah. And, when I went to grad school, or was looking at grad schools for emergency management, there wasn't too many choices. Now you can go and have a multitude of choice from any type of programs. It actually started, the structure's been around for a while. It was for people that have been around for a while would remember, as civil defense. So all the civil defense agencies kind of transitioned through the years, and then after 9/11 is really when the current profession of emergency management really took off, and then obviously Katrina was a big test for the nation in how we respond to large-scale disasters, and there was a lot of lessons learned there. So I think after that it really became solidified as a profession and academic track.
Okay. So focusing here on Summit County, what are the top hazard risks that we face here that you're really focused on?
Sure. There's plenty. I think everybody has fresh in their minds the Peak 2 fire from last summer. Right. So wildfire is a huge concern, but there's plenty of other things too. Flooding, we worry about flooding. We worry about hazmat incidents down with I-70 running right through our county. And then, of course, all of the homeland security pieces.
Sure.
That's an important part of what we are constantly monitoring and preparing for.
Okay, great. And so what are some examples of strategies that we put in place to mitigate some of those risks or to be better prepared for them?
Yeah, so great question, and you mentioned mitigation. You know, in the world of emergency management, mitigation kind of takes on a different meaning. You know, common language, mitigation is to fix something or stop something from after it's already happened. But in emergency management, mitigation, we look at that as steps to take to prevent something from happening. And that's really the best approach. So there's lots of mitigation efforts going on in the county. For wildfires specifically, the U.S. Forest Service has taken the lead with doing an inordinate amount of land management to get rid of you know, dead wood and fuels, right, and management of the forests. But on a more local level, we're really fortunate that we have a wildfire council. Mm-hmm. They're very active, they're very organized, and they have a very in-depth wildfire plan. And they even, for those of you watching in the community, they have a mitigation grant program where they will work with neighborhoods to actually advise and help fund the removal of those fuels that we're worried about, those dead trees, and make our neighborhood safer. So they have meetings every other month, and they're open to the public. We just had one, but the next one is June 21st at 1:30 at County Commons. So certainly encourage everybody to make it out and get engaged and be involved. Another thing that I always try and make sure I emphasize is there's a great website called ready.gov, and we really try and get the message out that we rely on the public to be engaged and help us out by being prepared themselves. So at ready.gov, there's the resources to build a 72-hour emergency kit and to develop some family emergency plans, which are very, very valuable.
Definitely. And so if people, so you mentioned ready.gov, if people are looking for some information specific to Summit County, where can they go to learn more about specifically what your department does?
Sure, absolutely. So if you go to the county's website at summitcountyco.gov, there's a link for emergency management, and we have our own page, and you can click on there and have all of the information. Also, you know, that will be a great resource coming up. You know, you talked about what are we doing to kind of mitigate and get ready. We also are very active with exercising. So coming up, we have an exercise with the dam, the Goose Pasture Tarn Dam. Okay. So federal, local, state officials are all going to get together and make sure we're on the same page with safety for that. And then maybe more prominent to the community is coming up in early this summer, we will be having what's called a full-scale exercise. So that's when we don't just sit around and test plans inside of a meeting room. We actually get out and get the responders and their equipment out, and we're going to try and make that very visible for the community. So you should probably start to be seeing information about that, and our website is going to be a great place to go to keep up with that information.
All right, fantastic. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk some more with Brian about mass notification to the community. So stay tuned.